this is your first time watching, my name is Leslie Colvin and I am the host of This Square. Now, if this is your first time joining us, welcome to the Interactive Corner. The segment before this was the Informative Corner, and what I did there was I took a few things that we expose ourselves to daily, and I talked about how they impacted us mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. Now, one of the topics that I discussed in the Informative Corner was generational health, and I talked about how things are passed along in our genetics throughout generations. But today, I'd like to switch gears and still talk about generational health, but I want to talk about how habits, mindsets, and energies are also dispersed throughout generations. And here to discuss this matter with me in more detail, I have Tyra Sadler.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I feel great. I woke up feeling very free today.
That's good.
So, yeah.
That's a good thing. That's the best way to wake up.
It is. So the reason I wanted to have you on is because you have a history of working with children. Could you tell the audience what it is that you did?
Yeah, so for about 2 years, I worked as a mental health caseworker doing case management with children between the ages of 7 to 17.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I not to talk about myself, but I knew I always loved children, but and this this is crazy because like I said, as I talk to you guys and as I do these videos, I'm learning more about myself. I was a program coordinator at an elementary school, and it's something that I love little kids from 5 to 10. That's my favorite age.
Yeah.
And I don't know, it's like the teenagers, they're cool, but I feel like I have more connection with the little kids because that's when, as I'm entering my, adult years, I'm understanding that those years were the most traumatic years of my life. So I feel like I want to be close to kids that age to, just make them feel safe, because I didn't feel safe at that age.
Yeah.
So that's why I want to talk about how children grow up and what makes them who they are as they become adults.
Right.
Now, do you believe in generational curses?
I do. I think that, especially not even just with mental health, but it can same thing be with spiritual health, with physical health, that things can be passed along from generations and generations, especially when it's a early trauma in a family line and it's never addressed or never really, worked on. It can definitely be passed on from generation to generation, for sure.
Now, do you think that mental traits and can emotional traits be passed along? Or is that something that's like developed throughout the years?
I think that we all have our own emotional, like, array of emotions, and we're all able to kind of develop how we handle emotions. And I don't think I would say emotions can be passed along. Just like, maybe. I'm just thinking about my own family and my own family dynamics. And so I am the only daughter. I have 2 brothers I have 3 brothers, but I grew up with 2 brothers in my household. And how I handle my emotions opposed to my older brother, opposed to my younger brother, opposed to my mom, opposed to my dad. It's like we all have different. No one handles emotions the same, which ultimately leads to everyone just ignoring the problems because no one wants to address them, because we do all handle our emotions differently. And then I even look at how my mom handles her emotions opposed to her sisters, my grandmother, so not to say that emotions can't be passed along, but I do think that just as we develop, how we develop is how we handle our emotions. I also personally believe that astrology,
Plays a
into
huge
that.
part. You guys watch my last video. If this is the first video that you are watching, go back, because that one did clear up a lot of madness that I had in my head. But so do you think that mental traits are passed down now?
Yes, absolutely. So right now I work as a nanny, and the children I work with are 1 and 2. The 1-year-old, he just turned 1 this week, and then the 2-year-old will be 3 in a month. So it's actually funny watching them because they handle, they handle their emotions differently. And I know it's like weird to say because they're babies, but no, like we're born with emotions. Like
you're
from
a whole human just developing.
Yeah, you know, and I think a lot of the times people try to pass off children's emotions because they're babies, and it's like their only form of communication is crying. So anytime they're crying, oh, they have to be hungry or they have to be, you know, changed. But no, they have emotions too. They feel, they get hurt, they get sad. But watching them to develop and how much differently they are, and they're so close in age, it's just interesting because the 2-year-old, he is so smart. Like his vocabulary is extensive for a 2-year-old. Yeah, like he says things like this is ridiculous. That's his favorite line. And it's just so interesting watching this small person grow. But you know, I was just talking to his parents and they're like, we don't know where he gets his language from, you know. But then I also have a lot of friends and family that have kids that are like around the same age, and they might not be, or their vocabulary isn't as extensive, or I have friends whose kids still really is delayed with their speech. So I do think that it's passed along, but I also think that your day-to-day interaction has a lot to do with how your kids develop.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Because the kids I nanny, like both of their parents are doctors, so they work a lot, which is why they wanted a nanny so they can have someone who has
that social interaction,
daily
that
interaction
they
with someone.
Got it.
And my mom always told me from when I was younger, she's like, every little kid you're always around, they learn how to talk because all you do is talk to them. And I don't believe in like the
cooing and
like talk to them. They understand, they can comprehend, they can put in context. Like I asked a 2-year-old, he asked me if he could take his toy in the store. I'm like, well, no, because if you lose it, you'll be devastated. I said, do you know what devastated means? And he said, I think sad and mad. I said, exactly. You know, he just picked up off the context from what we were talking about.
Able to connect the dots.
Yeah. So you have to just throw words out there like that. You don't have to, you know, water down the conversation for babies. I think that they can comprehend more than people think.
I do too. So, dang it, I was hanging on to something in the conversation that you said. Oh, so you talked about, you know, babies when they cry, people always brush it off and assume that they're hungry, sleepy, need to be changed. Do you think that because a lot of children's when they cry, they're brushed off so much? So I feel like when they cry, they're expressing that their needs are not being met, but other people feel like, oh, they're just acting out. Don't you think that, you know, they're expressing that?
Yeah, so, I mean, it's just the hierarchy of needs, you know? So they say that if your basic needs aren't met, then your emotional needs will never be met. It's just how it goes. If you haven't bathed in 7 days, do you think you're going to be happy?
Right.
Like, no, you have to meet the basic needs in order to build that foundation. So with children, not just babies, children, even up to 15, 16, you know, their needs have to be met by their parents. They don't have money, they don't have resources, and for little kids, they don't even have the communication to tell you what their basic needs are for you to meet. And for infants, toddlers, you know, sometimes it's very hard for them to express that. Like, I was just thinking about that the other day, like, thinking about when you wake up and you got like bubble gut, you're like, oh, I just feel bloated, I feel sick. Like, babies have that too. And if they wake up screaming and crying and parents are giving them milk and changing them and doing this and doing that and they're still crying, that's when they're like, oh, I don't know what's wrong with this kid. Oh, you're a cry baby. Like, well, yeah, you're a baby. You're gonna cry. Like, that's the logic behind that. So I do think that, yes, basic needs have to be met, but I also think that parents have to also support their child's emotional needs, you know? Kids, again, they get sad. I don't know if you've ever seen that video. It's like a viral video of a little, I want to say he was maybe even newborn, maybe infant. He gets, I want to say, cochlear implants so he can hear, and then his mother starts talking, and he immediately, like,
I want to say I do. It's not recent, is it?
No, I want to say it's probably a few years
Okay,
old.
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah, the baby immediately starts like gets surprised, then gets happy, then starts crying. A little baby who has no language,
just experienced all of those emotions in that short time.
And you see it in the video play out. And if a baby that small can have an emotional reaction to hearing his mother's voice for the first time, you think they don't get more emotions as they get older?
So true.
And I think that toddler age, like 2 to 4, don't get me wrong, 2 to 4 year olds do try you. They will try you. But I think that's the age that a lot of parents really start like contribute or just, saying their behaviors because they're in that, age range. They're acting out, they're doing things for attention, but
I feel like that's when parents though are most influential in their child's behavior.
So. Someone literally just said that to me the other day, and I agree because I see, especially the kids I nanny, I just see a lot of patterns. Like, so 2-year-old right now, he's in the phase, he's learn some cuss words, and the mom's like, "Oh, I know he got it from me. Like, I already know." But there's other little things that he does, and I'm like, okay, I see that he picked up, from the parents. But even the infant, he started to pick things up from me because, the 2-year-old, I just started working for them, and he already, has had a nanny and been around his parents more than the infant. So I am his primary caretaker right now. So he's picking things up for me. So recently I say no. So now his favorite thing is he shakes his head no for everything. Even when he means yes, he'll be like. And they're like, "Where did he get that from?" I'm like, "Me. I know, because I do it to him all the time." But I do think that is like a very influential age for them, and it's important again to just start talking to them at that age. It's never too early to start building with them and teaching them things. And I think one of the bigger problems, especially with the technology we have now, is that parents try to distract their kids to make it easier
for them.
Yeah, but I think that when they ask for something, make them use their words to tell you what they want. If they have the language, but it's best if you just talk, and I think that will build up into when they get older, they feel comfortable talking to you.
So that was one of my one of the next questions. You hit so many points. I'm like, ooh, I gotta talk about that. But so you said as they get older, and earlier I had said that I feel like my elementary years were the most traumatic years of my life. Do you feel like the things that we go through as children, those patterns that we see our parents going through, those, do you think that plays I think it plays a huge role in the our adulthood patterns, the traumas that we experience as kids?
Girl, absolutely.
Okay. I'm trying to connect the dots within myself, and so
have you watched that show Euphoria?
I have not.
I think you would like it because it's it kind of does talk about generational mental health. So in the show, the way the show is presented is each episode like focuses on one of the characters. It takes you from pretty much, some of them from the day they were born, some of them just from when they were small children, and it shows you the most traumatic moment of their young life. So for one girl, it was when her dad came home, needles in his arm, asking her, stealing money from her mom. For one girl, it was the day her dad died from cancer. For one girl, it was when, she gained 20 pounds in the summer and, all the kids made fun of her. So it's interesting. I like the show because of that. It's interesting that it shows the most traumatic life, and then the rest of the episode kind of plays on how that moment is leading to this moment while he is 16, 17, 18. So, yeah, absolutely. I think that trauma during those peak developmental years plays a large role of how we handle things emotionally, mentally. Like for example, me, my family dynamics. So my parents are married; they're still married. But when I was around probably 7, 8, we experienced, like my siblings and I experienced like domestic violence in the home. And I think that because of how far apart my siblings and I are, like my eldest brother is 4 years older than me, and my youngest brother is 6 years younger than me. So my eldest and youngest are 10 years apart. So me being 7, my youngest brother was, well, I was maybe 8. He was like 2, 3. My older brother was like 11, 12. How we each viewed those series of events were different point of views,
Got it.
How that impacted me might impact my brother a little more because he was older. He understood a little bit more. He, he might have witnessed more that I don't remember. Something like that might not have been the first thing he witnessed. So how his relationship is with my mom and dad is vastly different from how my relationship is with my mom and dad, and that's completely different from my younger brother because he was so young. Not to say he doesn't remember, because again, trauma is trauma, and I don't like when people say, "Oh, that's just a baby; they're not gonna remember." No, trauma is trauma.
Yeah.
Because babies feed off of energy, absolutely, and they can tell. Like people always tell me that kids love me because I have a good spirit, but you can tell when a baby gets in someone's arms and they're uncomfortable or they're crying because they feel energies. So, not to say that didn't impact my brother, but his level of trauma at that time might have been more of a physical reaction or like not so much of a mental toll, but more so, he might have been fidgety, he might have been a little, anxious for a few days, but not maybe so much of an emotional toll as it was for me or how it was for my older brother.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Because I do look at, how close, because I have on my, from my mother, I have 2 brothers and a little sister. And my brothers are a lot closer with my mother than I am. I didn't get close with her until I feel like my adult years, and they always were like this with my mom. And that does make a lot of sense because it's like we all witness the same things, but I've never even had the discussion with them, about how they viewed it and now I'm watching my little sister, still deal with the things that we dealt with when we were kids, and I'm just looking at her like, she's had experiences her entire life as to where, and it's weird because I don't, it's so strange. I don't recall a lot of my life before the age of 7. Is that weird?
You might have some repressed memories.
Yeah, and that's what I've been thinking about because I'm like, she remembers things from when she was 2. It's like when I was 2, I don't even remember my first grade teacher's name. I don't even remember things like that. So
yeah, you might have a little repressed memory.
Yeah, I'm working on it. That's why you're here. That's why I'm talking to you guys because I feel like I started this as something to keep me focused when I felt myself, derailing and all of that. So this has been a healing tool for me.
And that's great, honestly. Like that, to me, look, therapy can get expensive. A lot of people don't want to put their pride aside and go to therapy. And I will say therapy can be an uncomfortable circumstance, especially as an adult. You've been holding these things in for so long. It's not the easiest thing to sit down with someone you've never met before and just air it out. So I do think that, take it step by step. I've never been to therapy. When I was a social worker, my supervisor was a therapist, and I always said our supervision sessions were therapy sessions for me because most of the time, like we would start talking about the kids, and then she would check in with me, like, well, how's your mental health? Because being a social worker takes a big toll on, especially when you're doing mental health work with children. You hear some crazy things, and it's sad because again, the age range I was working with, these are children, and some of them went through things so traumatic, like things I've never experienced and I don't want to experience, and it's hard to hear that back to back, 30, 40 kids a week, so you have to do your mental health check-ins, and I think sometimes just saying stuff out loud helps, just even if you don't go into detail, just
okay, the purging of it.
Yeah.
You know,
So that's good. That's good.
Yeah. I'm trying to take, like I said, in order to get better, we have to take control of ourselves and take, control of our healing and all of that.
Yeah.
So I was scrolling on Twitter, and I'm gonna be referring to social media a lot, you guys, because that's what we're in the age of. A lot of things are exposed to us on social media, and we learn about them. We learn about it on social media. Mm-hmm. So it was a book that I was reading a review on Twitter, and it said that when you meet a young person and you say they have an old soul or you're very mature for your age, that something traumatic happened to them when they were younger and their innocence was taken away. Do you believe that?
Yes. Not always. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's just a matter of, everybody's different. Some things just how you were raised. Some people just have older parents and just raised to more so have an old soul. But again, I personally believe we all have trauma. There's not one person walking who has never experienced something traumatic. Now, the levels of trauma, or not even the levels, because let's not play, who war was worse. Yeah. But I think the way we handle our traumas is vastly different, because two people can have the same trauma. Like two people, not to get graphic, but two people can be raped at the age of 6. One person can end up being a serial killer. The next person can end up being an advocate for rape for the rest of their life. So it's how you handle those traumas, what you deal with. But I think that also goes back to generational mental health. If your family has a mental health history, then of schizophrenia and then bipolar, and your dad was, had a drug addiction, and then here you are, and then you were exposed to rape at a young age, then you might possibly turn the other leaf. Yeah.
It's a 50-50 chance, like kind of.
Absolutely.
Which brings me to the topic of nurture versus nature.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, so then like you said, you have two people who go through the same things but handle them completely different. Like the biggest example that I can use are siblings. Siblings who grew up with the same parents in the same household in the same time realm. How does one become so bad and the other so good? I don't want to use the terms good and bad, but
so I actually have 2 sets of friends that are twins. And it's interesting because both of these sets of twins are just polar opposites. And it's interesting because it's like, okay, they're twins, clearly they grew up same household, same age.
They have probably
the same parents, probably experienced same traumas at the same time, but yet they're so different. And not that it's good versus bad, it's just like how they present themselves, what they're into, how one lives their life, how the other one lives their life, and stuff like that. It's like, do you attribute that to nature or nurture? Because again, they're twins, so they literally share, DNA. Especially my set of friends that are identical, they share DNA. But then at the same time, one twin, again, how you take and handle trauma. One twin could have handled a situation differently, or maybe, at a young age, the parents said, "Oh, she's a little more sensitive than her, so we need to give her a little more attention."
Gotcha.
So the opposite twin kind of didn't get that same nurturing.
I understand.
So I think that especially like when you're like when I was in school, being sociology versus psychology is always a war. Which one is it? Which one is it? It's both. They equally play a role. They honestly do. You can't dispute facts because there's many studies that show how big of nature plays a role. Like, many twin studies prove that nature is on our side, but then we have social workers that literally prove that nurturing makes a big difference. Again, 2 people who can go through the same trauma and end up being completely opposite, even if they're siblings, just because of how they were raised. So they both play hand in hand.
Because I tried to, a good friend of mine tried to talk about it. We were talking about him and his brother because has a track record. He has a record, a lengthy one. Yeah. Meanwhile, his brother is squeaky clean, managing a few different locations at the job that he has. And I'm just like, how did this end up, I've sat and talked with their mother and she's like, I don't understand where I went wrong. And I told her, not to blame. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. Yeah. But she, even beats herself about it. And I'm just like, it's just nurture playing its part and nature playing its part. And that's that's just what it is.
Also, I think like how mothers handle their pregnancies, that can play a large role in future development. If you suffer from depression during your pregnancy, you're not really taking care of yourself, your baby's missing out on, first of all, that bond at a very, very, very vital point of development, because you're literally developing, and you might be missing out on, medicine and vitamins because the mother isn't eating, and nutrients, and that can also play a role. But to me, that is a combination of nature and nurture. You're not nurturing, so you don't, again, that is hierarchy of needs, just basic needs to fulfill emotional, spiritual, mental needs.
And that reminds me of, you guys are going to also hear me refer to a book that I'm reading about spirituality. It's it's not about spirituality. It's actually about healing the feminine body, mind, and spirit. Yeah. And in the book, they refer to a specific spirituality. I don't want to say the name because I'm not, comfortable with releasing what it is yet. But it talked about how women are the creators and the rulers of the world. We have, yes, we have, so you guys know when you meditate and when you do yoga and everything, you have the energy levels. Women have 9 energy levels, and the first one is our womb. And that's where life is created. And so even going back to my first question about the generational curses and the generational, emotions, in the spirituality, they do believe that emotions and energy are transferred through that transmission of life. So that whole pregnancy thing, how people treat you, how you feel, it'll play a huge role.
Absolutely.
So
because if you're exposed to trauma while you're pregnant, you think that doesn't have an impact on your baby.
You're going to be releasing that energy and all that into the world. So, and it also said that, that's why the world is in such chaos today, because the women that are giving birth, the women the women of the world today, we're taking on a lot of stress and emotions and depression from the generations of women before us, because our mother birthed us. Our mother went through things. Her mother went through things. So we're, we're dealing with all of that, and then we're also dispersing it into the world, causing all of this. So we gotta take our, health into our own hands, you guys, and just get back on the right track if we want to save the world. I want to save the world. I want to try. Yeah. What do you feel like you do for the world? Like, are you an entertainer, a healer, a teacher? What do you feel like you do?
I don't really put a label on it, but I think I'm all of those things, honestly. So currently I kind of have a Instagram page, page that's dedicated to health, mental health. It's also fashion and, but it's 3 segments. One is more so fashion, talk about fashion and give advice and trends and, Second one is mental health. I give just mental health, spiritual health, advice, tips, how to handle situations, tips on how to meditate, tips on daily affirmations, just things like that. And then the third one is usually some type of health tip, so skincare, or what you're consuming, how you can change your diet, because I know right now veganism is a big thing. I am not vegan, however, I have a strict I don't consume meat as much as I used to. I try to limit myself to one type of meat a day. So if I eat bacon for breakfast, then I can't eat meat for the rest of the day. I think it's good to monitor that stuff.
It is.
And, you know, I don't think you have to completely eliminate meat. I think that
moderation is key.
Exactly. And I do think that I personally believe we need everything. Like, you need that balance. But that's me. And I do understand why people go vegan. In this industry, you can't trust everything. But
in this country, don't
right.
believe me, you too.
Right. Look, we know. We already know. But so that's what that page is for. But I also, like, a lot of my friends come to me for advice, for spiritual healing, because I do a lot of research on spirituality. I consider myself a teacher in the way that, like, stuff like this, I like to be informative. And when my friends do come to me, yes, I'm going to help you heal, but here is what you're going to do on your own. You know, if I had to sit down and read this stuff and get this stuff for myself, you should too. Because if I just hand you the keys, then you're never going to go search them for yourself. Yeah. So I don't know. I don't really label myself as one thing. I just I'm me.
Jack of all trades.
You know, so I try to put out positive energy into the world, and that's been a new thing I've been working on. I mean, I think it is impossible to completely relieve yourself from negativity. It exists.
It happens.
There
it's life.
is evil in the world. Can't get rid of it. But you can monitor how you expose yourself to that stuff. Like, I think one of the big steps I took last year, I used to follow, like, all those gossip blogs. Cut it out. Unfollow them. Mute those pages. Don't need that energy in my life, because it's like every time I'm on the timeline, no matter which timeline I'm on, it's this, negative.
Because what you see feeds literally right into your brain. It filters into your brain. So.
And then you're exposing yourself to that, and, like, you're allowing yourself to be exposed to it. So, you know, unfollowing those pages, that was definitely a healthy way for me to relieve myself of negativity. I've also been working on expressing my emotions more when someone hurts me, saying, hey, you hurt me, you know, but not holding it against them, because that's a big thing. People, you know, we get mad, and especially me. When I'm mad, you will not hear from me. It's like you don't exist. And so I've been trying to get better at that, actually expressing, hey, this is how you hurt me. I forgive you, even if you know, don't regret it, even if you don't have any remorse for what you've done. I forgive you, because me holding on to that is it being energy eating me up. And so...
And that negative energy in the book, it says that, because I also, you know, I'm working on forgiving people for things that they, you know, did to me in the past, things that they did to hurt me. And I must say that I believe that, you know, these conversations are healing. I feel like they do release the negative energy, because in the book it said that when you, you know, I don't want to get too deep into it, but it basically said that when you hold the negative energy in you, it transforms into a sickness or into a disease or, you know, into all these impurities that we experience. So, yeah, it's important to let those out, because when our words have vibrations to them, and when we let them out, we feel them. So,
yeah, absolutely. I am a firm believer in energy. I think that energy surrounds us. I do believe in speaking things into existence, saying them out loud, and then, you know, a lot of people kind of downplay spirituality because it's not a direct science, but I mean, religion isn't a direct science, you know. But I have personally seen results from being spiritual. You know, I do speak things into existence, but it's not like you're waving a magic wand or wishing it with a genie. You have to speak it into existence, and then you have to put in the work. And if you know, speak it to existence, put in the work, but then you have all this negativity in you, and you're kind of doubtful, and you don't believe, or you just, again, you're not exposing yourself to the right things, you're not taking care of your body, meeting your basic needs, then it's not going to work for you. You have to be a believer. You have to speak these things to existence, do the work, but also, again, taking care of yourself and having faith in yourself that whatever you need or whatever you're trying to obtain or that you're believing that you can do it. So every day I affirm to myself that, like, I am meant to be here. The universe supports everything that I do. That everything that I want wants me in return. You know, you have to affirm that these are what you want. So when I go to bed, I probably have like 30 affirmations. I'm not gonna go through all. But when you go to bed like that, all this positivity in your mind before you go to bed, you can't help but to wake up with a go-getter personality, you know?
So true, so true, so true. I love it. So would you like to give our guests your social media handles and tell them how they can contact you further while I run and go get this thing for you?
Yeah. So you can follow me at Tyra West __ on Instagram and Twitter. For my page that I mentioned about mental health. For my page that I mentioned about mental health, physical health, that is called The Other East, and it's the like THE _ other _ East EAST.
Cool. And y'all already know how y'all can handle. I mean, not how y'all can handle me, how y'all can find me through my handles. If you don't know, it's Good Girl Les. That's on Twitter and Instagram, GOOCGIRL. And I wanted to give you this cool little t-shirt with the Squares logo on it. There you go. Yes, she is. She's locked in. And I want to thank you for coming. It was very informative, very helpful. And I hope that the guests feel the same way that I do. Because like I said, it's a healing tool for me. And I want you guys to use this channel for a healing tool for yourself as well, you guys.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Well, thank you guys for watching. And until again, bye-bye.